শুভ নববর্ষ. Before I start my lecture, I tender my humblest of apologies to my subscribers, to my fans and followers, to the colleagues, to the students, to all those people who have been waiting for my next video to upload, and they have been waiting for ages. So I put my hands up and say sorry. It has been very hectic of late, and I have been going through a lot in my personal life, in my professional life, in my medical life as well. So before I begin to shoot my next video, I tender my apology to all the subscribers of my YouTube channel. But here I am, back with my fresh new YouTube video on a very popular demand, that I upload a video on this very auspicious day, which marks the beginning of a Bengali calendar. So this is the first day, that is first Boishak, Poila Boishak, marking an auspicious beginning of the Bengali New Year. But again, I begin my video with a couple of questions. That since when has this Bengali New Year become Happy New Year? And since when has it become a parallel to how Kali Pujo has become Diwali, and to also how, what should I call, to how Dol Purnima has become Holi. So I will be drawing an analogy to explain this. That Dol Purnima used to be Dol Purnima, but recently it has become Holi, as Happy Holi. So next, so Kali Pujo, it used to be Kali Pujo when I was growing up in my childhood through my teenagers. The Kali Pujo used to be Kali Pujo once upon a time in past. But now Kali Pujo is no longer Kali Pujo. Kali Pujo has become Dasera. Kali Pujo has become Diwali, right? And similarly, very, very similarly, like Kali Pujo has become Diwali, like it has become Holi from being Dol Purnima. Similarly, this Poila Boishak has become almost our answer to 31st December or the 1st of Jan. Now, before I explain these analogies, I have to go back to a little bit of Raymond Williams. And here I'm quoting Raymond Williams. And before I start quoting Raymond Williams, I have to explain two references of Raymond Williams that I'll be using to deconstruct this lecture. Raymond Williams has talked about two different cultures: residual culture and also emergent culture. And he also has talked about dominant culture as well. So in fact, Raymond Williams has talked about three cultures: residual culture, emergent culture, and dominant culture. Now, what is residual culture? You know what? Residual culture is the continued presence of the present in some form, as fantasy, the exotic, as ideal of the past. Let me take up this theorization of residual culture through the deconstruction of some popular Bollywood films like Border, LOC, or even Gadar, which celebrates, what does it celebrate? Celebrates national interest, patriotism. And those of you who are familiar with my YouTube channel, they are familiar with how I deconstructed Rang de Basanti and how patriotism is implicated in patter and patriarchy. So I'm not going into this. I'm straight away going into another movie that is called Lage Raho Munna Bhai. And what does Lage Raho Munna Bhai suggest? Lage Raho Munna Bhai explains another residual culture, that is family life is the centerpiece of individual existence. If you do not have stable, steady, fundamental family life, your individual existence will go haywire. That is to say, if you have to have individual existence, it has to be based upon stable family. If you do not have a stable family life, your individual existence will go to the dogs. That's what these movies ideologically imply and interpret. And again, Raymond Williams has talked about dominant culture. Now, metropolis, the malls, the big booming cities, the urbanization, they have become part of India's dominant culture. And the third culture that Raymond Williams has talked about is, apart from residual culture, dominant culture, is the third one that he has talked about is the emergent culture. Now this is a more important for students to understand what is emergent culture. Emergent culture is the influence of new faith, new belief, new system, mostly that sort of comes from westernization. So if we take up example of Dil Wale Dulhania Le Jayenge, to be able to explain Raymond Williams' theories of dominant culture, residual culture and emergent culture, then I can explain all these three cultures through this single movie, Dil Wale Dulhania Le Jayenge. You know, Dil Wale Dulhania Le Jayenge on one hand celebrates the strong Hindu family, right, in which a woman is not allowed to move without the consent of the father. Ja Simran Ja, ji le apni jindagi. So when the father, the patriarch, uses logo word Ja Simran Ja, only then does Simran move. What does that suggest? That basically suggests that the movement of a woman is dependent on the language of the male patriarch of the family. And not only does the movement become dependent on it, in fact, those women who listen to the male patriarch, they are the good brides. So Kajol, in that character of Simran, moved only because father, the male patriarch, head of the family, lets her, or should I say, allows her to move. So Kajol does not move because Kajol or Simran wants to move. Simran moves because Simran was asked to move by the male patriarchal head of the family, which was played by, I think, Omresh Puri. Ja Simran Ja, ji le apni jindagi. So that male voice is the God's message. And when the God's message comes, the hardly ordinary mortal like woman moves. So it almost reminds me of Derrida's deconstruction of phallogocentrism. So now this is echoed in Dil Wale Dulhania Le Jayenge. And what does that suggest? So that suggests residual culture. So therefore Dil Wale Dulhania Le Jayenge, simply it is based on strong family. That's why it is an example of residual culture. But it also has Shah Rukh Khan's character who comes from abroad with his westernized uh, uh, culture, diasporic, ghettoistic, diasporic ethos, faith, milieu, belief, and everything. And then there is a rupture in the family with that invasion of westernization. That somehow suggests what Raymond Williams calls emergent culture. So therefore, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge is the cusp, that is the liminality, or should I say that is the borderline of emergent culture being represented by Shah Rukh Khan and the residual culture that was represented by the Kajol's character or the Simran. So therefore these movies they are the cusp of if I use cultural studies, these are the popular cultural cusp of how Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge intersects both residual culture and the emergent culture before it goes on to substantiate the dominant culture in the end. Now having said that, the viewers of my YouTube channel must be wondering, why am I theorizing Raymond Williams' dominant culture, residual culture, and emergent culture? I am theorizing this because I want to use this theorization of Raymond Williams and culture studies to deconstruct what is happening today. And what is today? Today is Poila Boishakh, the first day of Bengali New Year calendar. And what does Poila Boishakh suggest? Poila Boishakh suggests marks the beginning of Bangla calendar or Bangla Noboborsho. So fine, it's all good when people are wishing me Shubha Poila Boishakh, and I am wishing them back Shubha Poila Boishakh or Happy Bengali New Year on this first day of Bengali calendar. But I would like to conclude this video with a very, very disturbing question. That is, how well do we celebrate 31st December and how well do we celebrate 1st of January? We celebrate 1st of Jan extremely well, with so much fanfare. Media celebrates 1st of January. Corporate industry celebrates 1st of January. Capitalism celebrates 1st of January. We all middle class people celebrate 1st of January. And then and every time I open a channel or app or whatever, New Year festive season is here. Let's welcome the New Year 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021. And almost Salman Khan comes and brings the New Year. I have a theory that if Salman Khan does not come and bring the New Year might never come. So I think whole humanity, whole Homo sapiens, Gota Manav Jati should be thankful to Salman Khan for having brought every single year New Year. If Salman Khan does not bring New Year in Star Plus, New Year would never have come to human beings. Anyway, that's for another video. But this enthusiasm in news channels, this enthusiasm in media, this enthusiasm is not to be found when Poila Boishakh comes along. Why? Because almost Poila Boishakh is becoming more and more like Raymond Williams' residual culture. And why do we celebrate the English New Year with so much fanfare? Because 1st of January is almost becoming the emergent culture, Raymond Williams' emergent culture. And the 15th of April, that is the 1st of Boishak, is becoming almost the residual culture. So on this auspicious day of Poila Boishak, I wish all of you Shubho Noboborsho, not necessarily as a residual culture, not necessarily as a dominant culture, but luckily, hopefully, fingers crossed, as emergent culture. Otherwise, as culture studies would always have me tell all of you, that culture would become a vulture. And what does vulture do? Vulture flies in the sky on swoops and just kills the prey. So this is how emergent culture would prowl in the sky and swoops down and tears off the head of the residual culture. So the spelling I popularly call in my students or college, that the spelling of culture should not be C-U-L-T-U-R-E, the spelling of culture should be V-U-L-T-U-R-E. So culture studies has become a vulture studies, where culture, some of the cultures has become a vulture, like the Hindi-speaking culture has become a vulture, which is hunting down the provincial cultures, like the South cultures, like the Bengali cultures. So unless you participate in that Hindi-speaking diaspora, this Bengali culture would not survive. So unless you become a part of that emergent culture, the residual culture would become redundant. So on that note, I wish all of you Shubha Poila Boishak. Think about it more as an emergent culture and not necessarily as a residual culture. Shubha Noboborsho to all of you. Stay home, stay safe and stay healthy. পয়লা বৈশাখ আপনাদের ভালো কাটুক, আর এই নতুন বছরটা আমরা করোনা মুক্ত হয়ে যেন মাস্ক ফ্রি হয়ে যেন কাটাতে পারি। ভালো থাকবেন, মাস্ক পরবেন, স্যানিটাইজ করবেন, and stay well, stay home and stay safe. Thank you. And one more thing that I have to offer you, that I have been going through a lot, I said, in my medical life, in my personal life, in my professional life. I've been busy, very busy with my PhD in my professional life. I have received my approval in my government service in my college, so that's part of my professional life. And so far as the personal life is concerned, I have become a husband. I'm married now to a lovely woman. And the third thing about the medical life, I have had my surgery done in my belly, in my tummy, because I was diagnosed gallbladder stone on the probably first week of January. So the English New Year was not necessarily a happy New Year for me, maybe because I wanted to celebrate Bengali New Year as a emergent culture, not as a residual culture. So my happy New Year was not in January. My happy New Year has now become in April. So that has technically, theoretically has become my happy New Year. Shubha Noboborsho.